Live stream time for Coda Radio. Oh, yes, my friends. Episode 293. Coming up. Stand by.
Get it out of here.
All right, so I got a couple of things here to do before we start the show. Let me dial those in here. Setting up the Coda Radio chat room, discord.me/JupiterColony, then go to Coda Radio. Join us on the live stream. Let's see how that's looking. Something seems off. Let me pull that up here. Yeah, it seems like it's a little cut off. If I make sound effects, I think it makes it better. There we go. Yes. Excellent. Hello, everybody! So what's going on in the world today? What's going on in your world today? What stories have your attention? Tell me in the Discord room. The one that I think impacts several of the Jupiter Broadcasting shows on the network. Intel is telling its customers to stop deploying buggy Spectre and Meltdown patches. It's resulting in a higher than expected reboot and other unpredictable system behavior. Linus Torvalds has criticized Intel's garbage, quote-unquote, Spectre and Meltdown patches, saying they do things that do not make any sense. He's calling them out. Microsoft has launched another competitor to Chromebooks. Starting at $189, Microsoft has revealed new Windows 10 laptops for schools, with a focus on chemistry and Minecraft. Minecraft and education, huge. Man, how can school districts say no to that? $189 for a Windows 10 computer with a Minecraft-tailored version to focus on education. Apple is launching an analytics service for musicians for Apple Music. It allows artists to log into a dashboard to provide them with insights into their fans' listening and purchasing habits. It's currently in beta. And Uber Eats has acquired a New York-based company called Ando, the food delivery startup from David Chang, that actually makes its own food and delivers it. Oculus Rift is showcasing a new chat app today. Yep, Oculus is showcasing a new chat app called VR Chat. VR Chat. And Coinbase has hired a former Twitter executive, Tina Barton-Traeger, as the VP of Operations of Technology. And two of Microsoft's official distributors in Russia have imposed restrictions on the sales of Microsoft software. They got to play their Microsoft anthem. Microsoft has to play the anthem. Everybody knows that. You see, if you don't do that, then that's what happens if you're Microsoft. You got to pay that. You didn't know that, did you? You got to pay that distributor's fee. You got to pay the 4D Chess Masters distributor's fee. All the pros know that. So what story got your attention this week? Give me a link in the IRC or in the Discord. Discord.me/JupiterColony. Once you go to Discord.me/JupiterColony, join the Coda Radio chat room. What story today is getting your attention? Doesn't have to be tech related. That Microsoft $189 laptop for schools is interesting because my son's class, all the kids have Chromebooks. And for an art project, they've been designing the Google logo in code. So when it's time to get creative with your computers, kids, you make a Google logo on your Chromebook. I'm not sure if it's any worse having Microsoft in there, to be honest. And then when it's time to learn how to use the internet, it's a session on how to use Google Search. And when it's time to learn how to use an editor, it's a session on Google Docs. El Lock-In. Do. Couple of their other headlines that caught my attention. Tile. You remember Tile? You remember Tile, don't you? It's the Bluetooth tracker for physical objects. They've laid off 30 staff members after lower than expected holiday sales. Not going well for them. Amazon Go opens today. Amazon's high-tech grocery store opens up today. And it's right here in Seattle, my neck of the woods. So, of course, our local news team went down there to check it out. So here, I'll play a little clip of that for you. This is our local Seattle news.
It is called Amazon Go, opening it to the public today without cashiers. King 5's Amity Idrisi now live to explain how all of this works. Amity?
Amity, like...
Amity, oh, okay.
Hey, guys. So, hey, it's busy right now outside Amazon Go. We got about 100 people who just walked in. They're handing out these cool orange shopping bags, and people are ready. We saw probably like 100 people line up and get ready to go in the store, and it's a pretty unique experience, my friends, because all you do is you walk in, scan a QR code on the app, grab what you need, and go. Yuval here, Yuval
Amity.
here, he just walked in. Literally 30 seconds later, you were out the door.
What?
And I like what you got here.
It was an amazing, spiritual experience for anything. I mean, it kind of just got rid of the line. I really couldn't. I wanted to take my time to look around, but I also realized the feature is a rush. But I literally walked in, scanned my app as if I was entering a subway turnstile, took 2 of these, then I put 1 back. I did put a couple things back. I still don't even know if I've been charged. I'm going to check my receipt, but of course I got my favorite beer, Allegiant Space Dust. Got this mug, always good mug. Innovation, Amazon. This is amazing. It works. This is incredible.
You're pretty thrilled about this. You were here bright and early.
Absolutely. This doesn't happen every day. I mean, this could revolutionize retail operations. Who
Put
knows?
people out of
This
work.
is kind of one of those dramatic events that don't happen, and it's awesome that it's taking place in Seattle, a place I get to call home, King County. And I'm glad to
represent.
participate, and I just, it's incredible
Represent.
innovation, and I have give so much credit to all the people that put so much time and effort into making this a possibility.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your beer.
Absolutely.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, my friend. And talking about the technology innovation, so much went
So
into
much,
this. The
so
opening
much.
was delayed a few times as
Oh.
they tried to figure out the kinks. So, like I said,
What
it
about
works
being kinky?
pretty simply. You scan your QR code, you go in, you pick up what you need, and the technology gods figure out
Oh,
what you've
gosh.
taken, and they add it to your virtual cart. Say
Oh,
you
boy.
pick something up and you go, there's too many calories in that, I'm putting it back. It knows, and it will not charge you.
How does it
Now,
work?
Earlier today, we had a hard time finding the app in the Apple Store, but look, get this. Now it's popping right up. They fixed the
get that.
problem. I talked to someone at Amazon. They said they fixed the problem, and now
We
you
didn't
can
hit
just hop
public.
in. Now, when you download the app, it even gives you a little bit of a tutorial. Can we show
What?
this, Jim? So basically, it shows you, go to the store, get your QR code, walk in. You can even bring family members with you,
Shut
but
the
there
hell
are
up.
certain rules. Like you have to scan a family member in first before you let yourself in, and then it tells you just pick it up. There's certain things like don't take something for another customer. It tells you this right now. If you grab something and
Don't
hand
do
it to
that.
another customer, you will get charged for it.
Just remember that.
Read over the app, check it out. This is the first store. We're going to see how it goes. I'm going to get inside. I don't know if I can bring you with me, but I'm going to go. I got my app ready. Maybe I'll get myself some beer.
Okay,
Back to
but-
you.
Some beer.
But does it know if you're over the age of 21 to buy alcohol?
That's a very good question.
So
We're going to
could
go
you-
dig deeper
Yeah.
on
Ask
that right
that
now.
Let's find out.
See, Joy, you guys are thinking smart.
Yep. Okay.
why
Well,
we
there's
made it.
important stuff to know at 7 in the morning.
yeah, it is.
And you buy beer, come in, walk out.
Yeah.
Within,
We got
10
orders
seconds.
back here for you too, Amity. So.
Okay. All right. Aren't they fun? They're so fun. There was another one I saw that I thought I'd give a go for, but it's not coming up now in the search because Google doesn't do search very well, apparently. The human-free grocery store. What do you think of that, guys? What are your thoughts on Amazon Go? No humans required to run this grocery store, although that's totally shit, right? Somebody has to stock it. Somebody has to make the food. Probably employs quite a bit. It just doesn't employ people, at the checkout stands. Although you got to wonder if maybe there's somebody there on standby, too. Sounds like maybe I should go. It is in my neck of the woods. Actually, you know what? I'll go next week. I'm going to be down there with Noah. I'll go next week and we'll check it out. We're going to be down there for a special event. So I will report live from the scene, let you know how it goes. Now, Bloomberg had an interview or like a special on this. Let's take a look at this one.
Explain this to us. We've been waiting for this for a while, actually.
We have. They announced this about a year ago and said they were going to open it in spring of 2017. And here we are almost a year later because they ended up encountering some bugs. But essentially, yes, the way this works is you download an app before you go into the store. And then as soon as you lift stuff off the shelf and put it in your bag, that is essentially the checkout process. That is, it is tracking your movements through the store using a combination of cameras and sensors. And then when you walk through sort of a turnstile on the way out, you've checked out.
So Sarah, I mean, basically you're opening up your credit card to Amazon the second you walk into this store and they can just sort of charge at will. I mean, there is a lot of potential for bugs. How much have they worked through them?
I think we're going to find that out today, right? And there's also things like if you happen to be standing in the store next to a person who has a similar look to you, because this uses facial recognition, could it could it confuse your purchases? There's a lot of things that are still to be determined here as to how successful this technology is going to be. Think about your own experiences with self-checkout machines at the grocery store. Sometimes those are a little buggy. And so this has a lot of promise in terms of the convenience it could bring, but we just have to see how well it actually works.
Sarah, just real quick, do you have a sense of what products are going to be in this store?
Yes, it's definitely going to be more upscale stuff than, say, a 7-Eleven. They are having meal kits, for example, and freshly prepared sandwiches and salads. So they're definitely going for sort of a high-end, affluent millennial customer.
So that would probably be maybe Mr. West there. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting, huh? Don't you think? But anyways, like I was saying, got to... All right, get that queued up. Good, very good, very good, good, good. And then what's this one here? Is this just, yeah, that could work too. Okay. And this one? Okay, so now I'm going to play that back. So you're going to hear the stream loop in on itself, but I want to play that back real quick if I can hear if we hear any like distortions in the stream. Skip. Okay, so now I'm going to play that back. Too so soon. You're going to hear the stream delay loop in on itself, but I want to play that back real quick if I can hear if we hear.
But I don't hear any pops.
No, I do not hear any pops, Link. To answer your question, I do not. I thought the delay would be more than that, though. Holy smokes. I mean, like, gosh. That's like right there. That's like, oh, my gosh. That's like so close. That's like almost right there. I mean, oh, my holy word. You know? Well, let's see what we got here. Let's see. I bet I was just checking the old like stash of clips here to see if we have things to share on the live stream. I don't really know, though, because I haven't synced all of it to this particular computer. So it's not everything. But, you know, let's play this clip. I don't think this gets much attention. This was a interview on Dell's EdgeX Foundry system, which is supposed to centralize control of IoT devices. We're here in the CTO lab talking IoT. How about that? And this is Jim. And Jim's going to give us a walk around to some of the tours, give us a couple of demos. I'm looking around, I'm just seeing all kinds of really great devices. Like that guy right there. There's some hardware over here. So where should we start?
We'll start in our mini lab. Let's do it.
Oh, hello, Mr. Dominic. Hello. I was watching a clip here. I was playing a little clip. Hello. How's it going over there? How's it going?
It goes.
It goes, yeah. Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? It goes, you know? It goes.
It doth go.
It doth. It doth. Yeah, I agree.
That's your shit.
You know? That's what I always say.
And the value of this, it's indicative.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good.
It's negative in the freedom dimension.
You got to think about these things. Okay, so I added a few things to LDoc. You know, I got a couple of things in there. Oh, I was in the middle of prepping, but then the chat room started chatting with me. You know those sons of bitches, how they do that sometimes?
They're just always chatting.
Yeah, always be chatting. That's their slogan. Their slogan. So listen, discord.me/Jupiter Colony. You go there, join us. Let's see, how does this his damn web browser, man. I tell you what. Never gives me a break. Never gives me a break. It's always got to be laggy. Tell you what, Mr. Dominic, I've just about had it with this here Ubuntu. Just about had it. I'm gonna become a FreeBSD guy. I'm gonna run TrueOS everywhere.
So you're gonna be at Google, basically.
Oh, I thought they were Debian people now. They were becoming Debian people.
Oh, they're Debian people. Yeah, true. I hear BSD, and it just kind of
makes you think. Makes you think about Google. You know, it makes me
think about evil, the devil, Google. See,
that's just because of Alan. See, now you're just projecting because of Alan Jude. You see, he has a way of doing that. All right, I think I'm good here, so I'm going to hit record. This is 293, which is amazing. It's remarkable. Now listen here, everybody. Here's what we'd like to do: is we'd like to get a title out of this if we could. So give us a good one, and perhaps. Can we mute that? Perhaps, let me see. How's that show? Boop, 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 boop. All right, good enough. All right, Mr. Dominic, is you ready for some magic? For some podcast magic? Some history?
It's either done.
Some history and, oh, boy. Okay. That happened, and we're moving forward. We are moving forward. Okay, muting you, muting me. Chat room, please bang suggest as we go along. And Discord, you can do the same, and we will tally the results at the end. Whoever gives us a successful title will continue on to the next live round. Everyone else will be eliminated after this. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry. You did enter into a life contract when you joined the live stream. This is Coder Radio, episode 293 for January 22nd, 2018. My mouse, my damn fucking wireless mouse. My fucking wireless mouse died on me right as I go to lift the levels us. All right, good thing I got physical controls. Physical control! This is Coder Radio, episode 293 from Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two great sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and perched on the edge of his chair, mouth smashed up to his microphone, it's our host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike. This is the part where you... There.
Oh boy, I was muted.
Like a pro, 293 episodes in, and we're not going to redo that intro. We're going to keep it.
No, just going to leave it.
It's a living document of our professionalism right here. Mr. Dominic, this show is going to be better than our intro, I believe. I think today we have a show that will actually outperform our intro. What do you think? Usually we peak right at the intro.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't have Jar Jar this week, so I sandbagged it a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's all right. You know, you had to scramble for that mute button. Got some good feedback. We got some good hoops to get into. You were trying out some new tech, and we're going to own up and answer Egon's tough question last week. So I'm pretty excited, pretty good. Feel like we should probably start with some feedback. We got Shane's email. You want to start there? You ready to just dive right in?
Shane, come back.
So Shane says, guys, he says, I've been a listener since the start of the show. Geez, we still have those? That's still a thing we have? Did you know that? People still listen from the start of the show? I had no idea. He says, I've been a listener from the start of the show, but I've really enjoyed the last few episodes. The longer format has really helped. Are we going longer? I guess we have gone a little longer. You know, maybe a little bit. Yeah. My favorite part was listening to Chris fantasize about the plush leather chair that Mike was sinking into. Perhaps at this very moment, yes. I also really enjoyed the episode that includes your predictions for 2018. I think you've both been on point. Mike predicted that JavaScript will expand its reach in 2018, and developers who are already using JavaScript will continue to use it, and those of us who don't will start using it. This prophecy was recently coming true for me personally, for several other people at my job, as well as transitioning from native iOS to React Native for existing internal apps. Also, Chris made an insightful prediction about a so-called LadyTube being integrated with all sorts of other products in 2018. It seems like an obvious next step now that you've mentioned it, but I'd never thought about it. And then the rant about the iMac Pro thinness revealed some of Mike's best rants. I agree that Apple should be less focused on the design of their Pro products, but they are just as much a design company as they are a tech company. They wouldn't know how to market a product that was big and fat. Like I've heard you guys are getting.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, he wants us to play. What song is? I mean, you remember? We had a new song, but I don't think I bookmarked it.
I remember. It's the fan made one from YouTube where I mispronounced phenomenon. Like, damn it, I did it again.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if I saved it though. I should have. I wonder if it's. What I should have done is I should have tossed it in the Coder Radio soundboard, but I don't know if I did. I might be a bad person.
This is how we'll learn how trolly the chat room is today.
See if they have it. See if they can find it.
In real time, link it to you.
Yeah. I do have something that I've been meaning to roll out at some point. It's totally unrelated, but it is the 1985 KFC Chef's Cooking Guide. But I don't think that's appropriate for this show.
What?
That's the sound clip I have right now. I don't know why I have that sound clip, but I've got a lot of weird random stuff.
He's a jackass.
But I don't think I have that clip at the handy. That was a good email. I feel like he basically overviewed some of our predictions for us, so our work will be easier later on in the show. So thank you, Shane. Thanks for being very complimentary and saying that we're very smart and insightful. I really appreciate an email like that. All right, so Infergo may be, or a.k.a. Bart, may be onto something with his email about microservices from last week's. He says, hello, Chris and Mike. Thanks for the awesome podcast. I enjoy Coder Radio. In episode 292, Mike talked about his mythical MacBook hipster working with microservices, mentioning that sometimes a giant monolith is just the way to go. I recently started a new job at a small financial startup, and now I'm working on a giant, and I mean giant, monolith, and it started trying to push working towards a REST API. First, to work with an internal API, and then slowly making it external so customers can then start using it. I'm very much opposed to using monoliths, since I think it makes writing bad code too attractive. My current code base has some terrible anti-patterns and very bad practices, which I commonly see in monoliths, but this happens less when I work with API code bases. We are so bound to just our framework, Symfony in their case, which makes using front-end frameworks less accessible, effectively slowing down development. Which Yeah, that's what a framework's supposed to do. My question with all of this is, when would a monolith actually be useful? The way I see it, it's the back-end framework that can be used to create endpoints, after which a front-end framework can be used to create a nice interface, leveraging all the benefits available from both frameworks. However, with only a Django or Rails or Symfony, you're kind of stuck just with that, right? I hope my question is clear. Keep up the great shows. Bart, a.k.a. Infergo, in the IRC. So this is an interesting point. His core question is, when is a monolith really, really all that useful? We kind of, I guess, came across last week as really kind of crappy on microservices a bit, or seeming, oh, this is a fad that's going to die. Although I don't really think that is truly how we feel.
No, I don't think that's how we feel. I mean, I think like any other good new methodology, I'm going to use that word, but it doesn't feel exactly right. Microservices got a bit too hyped, right? So my direct answer to the question would be monoliths make a lot of sense when your application is just one application, and it's not that big, right? So
yes. Yeah, it's like, what's the line?
Line of business app that isn't, multi-year in the making, right? A lot of things like inventory systems for businesses make sense as monoliths. A lot of things like, I don't know, sales tools make a lot of these, apps that dark matter developers and shops are making all the time make sense as monoliths. Things that don't make sense as monoliths are small applications that might be utilities, right? I would think of them more as utilities that other applications will tie into in the future for your organization. Right. So I think last week we talked about, I gave an example of like, if you have some sort of centralized authentication system that you rolled your own in your organization, that is a very good microservice. And I would also add that like microservices are individual services, right? They're not full-scale applications. So yeah, I think, in a lot of cases, monoliths still make sense.
Doesn't it really? It just really depends on the job, how large it is, and how well the job has been done, how well it's documented. Those are all factors.
It depends on the scope of the work, right? I mean, if you have no idea going in, you're going to make a bad decision no matter what, which unfortunately is how most software is made.
Oh, all right. So your answer to him is it depends.
It depends. We're back to our classic answer is maybe.
Yeah. It's almost like each situation is unique, but
yes,
that wouldn't make any sense, and that wouldn't be easy to brand and hype. It makes my brain hurt. Don't suggest that. I can't handle it. All right, so coming in on the feedback here is sort of what is this, a blog link? You toss this in here to the doc. Codingwithjason.com for programming. Is college worth it? So like, if you're getting into college, or if you're getting into programming, is college worth it?
This was in the subreddit.
Okay.
So, we've come down on the side of meh, probably not, right? Although I do have a war story where it was actually helpful. Not for me, because it would have been helpful. There are cases where some of the lower level stuff, it would be very helpful to kind of know, right? We could talk about like bitwise logic, down to the hardware, kind of more on the old school C route. I think the real way I would phrase this question is it worth going into debt for college?
That's the right question.
Because if you were like independently wealthy or you had a full scholarship, the answer is obviously yes, you should go to college.
Yeah.
Right? Like no one is suggesting that college will make you a worse programmer. No one, I don't think in the years we've been doing the show, either of us has ever suggested that. What I think we may have suggested in the past is if you're doing like mobile or web development, 99% of the time, going into like, nearly $100,000 of debt might not make sense for you, right? Associates to more appropriate. And that is the case. If you go that route and don't do the classical education, it's certainly important to, on your own, try to learn the, let's say, patterns and design methodologies and kind of low-level fundamentals that would have been taught in a comp sci degree.
Yeah, I think you always also want to be demonstrating that you're continuing your education, even just for competitive career advancing reasons too, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything changes so fast. It's not like you're going to come out of college in 2017 or 2018 and then in 10 years just be able to like rest on all you knew then. It's just not going to happen. So.
Is there any industry like that anymore? I mean, that's the way to go. Get into that field, whatever that is. What?
Condoms.
Yeah. What about like certain kinds of well, no, I bet you even like certain types of. Yeah, I can't really think of anything, to be honest with you, except for.
Can't.
Yeah. Yeah, not even.
I mean,
not even human
the
services. Nothing.
No, nothing. Even like looking at the brief history of iOS development, right, which really isn't that old, than all, is radically different now. Right, people are doing a lot of things like reactive, which, in 2007 or 2008 would have been completely unthinkable.
Yes,
I remember, working on the original iOS SDK 2 when it came out, which is weird that was the original, but the big thing people were talking about was like memory management, right, and like how to bleed every megabyte of memory out of these devices.
Right, absolutely.
Now let's wrap it in a JavaScript framework and go to town.
Fair
Let's
enough.
run a Safari window.
Yeah. Run it all inside your browser. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. Mm-hmm. Good point. Well, okay. So the answer there is if you're rich, yes. How often is that always the answer, though?
Well, it's easier to say yes to a lot of things, I think.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of advancing your career and keeping yourself trained, this is probably a great spot to mention Linux Academy. This is a tool to do that. It's a tool specifically built for our audience. It's everything you need to learn and to get hands-on experience with real solutions built around Linux. Linux Academy is a full-featured training library with everything you need to learn new skills and advance your career. With self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic, hands-on, real scenario-based labs, so you actually work with this stuff, you get actual experience before you test, and before you do anything in production. Huge. They have a course scheduler when you're busy, so if things are just a little packed in your day, these kinds of tools can be leveraged to help you stay on track, to set goals, little reminders, and you can break things off. You can do nuggets and just do a deep dive in a single topic. You know what, this week I've only got an hour, you say to yourself. No problem. You can still take advantage of your Linux Academy subscription. linuxacademy.com/coders. Go there. Sign up. Get a free 7-day trial. linuxacademy.com/coders. They have full-time human beings ready to help when you need them. This is their job. They don't build tutorials on crazy things like fixing your sink or changing your vehicle oil and then just try to throw Linux in and try to throw AWS in and try to throw a little courseware here and there on development. Oh, that should do it. That's a joke. Linux Academy is solely focused on this area. This is their full-time gig, and they're constantly making better, creating new and better study tools all the time. linuxacademy.com/coders. Get a free 7-day trial and take a look at the courseware, the platform, get an idea of what it can do for you. linuxacademy.com/coders. Thanks to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. That seemed just like the perfect spot to slip that in there when we're talking about continuing education. And you were continuing to play around with PowerShell a little bit, which this is funny because it kind of just started as like a, well, what if Microsoft did this discussion on this show ages ago? And now here we are in the first bit of 2018, and PowerShell has been released for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And you kicked the tires a little bit, I saw on your Twitter feed, Mr. Dominic.
Yeah, they certainly released PowerShell for Mac and Linux.
They certainly did. Yes, they did. Why? I mean, I like PowerShell, but I like Bash a lot more. That's probably why there's a Windows subsystem for, the WSL now. People like Bash.
Yeah, that's a great question. Why? It's a question I don't have a good answer to at the moment.
So this is PowerShell Core, right? That's what they're calling it. And they're releasing it for CentOS, OpenSUSE, Fedora, Ubuntu, macOS 10, 12, and higher. There's a Docker image for it. Arch? You got to be shitting me. Did they make an AUR entry? They made an AUR entry. Incredible. This is definitely a different Microsoft. This is really something. Can you believe that? Microsoft made an AUR entry for, I don't know why that surprises me so much, but it really is kind of shocking.
It's deeply weird.
Yeah, and why PowerShell? Like, why is this the thing they're trying to advance?
Right. Like okay. So one of the annoyances I'm having right now is like the bot framework for Microsoft does not work in Visual Studio for Mac. So if you want to do components in C#, you basically have to do it in Windows. Fair enough, right? Yet we can do PowerShell on Mac. I mean, I don't know about you. Maybe it's different, like the more Linux-heavy folks. But I don't know any Mac or Ubuntu users who were like, Mike, I just need my PowerShell, man. Like, I've heard complaints about the odd thing from Visual Studio that people wish was in the Mac version of Visual Studio. PowerShell is not on that list.
You know what I'm thinking? This is part of a really long-term strategy. So you got .NET open source now. PowerShell is MIT licensed. PowerShell Core is out there open source now. It's up on GitHub. This goes back to something I was saying towards the end of last year, I think, when we were trying out Windows 10. Microsoft is doing this is foundational work that pays off in 5 years, and this is the foundational work to lock Windows 10 in as the developer's platform for pretty much everything that you're not using Ubuntu or macOS for, which is productivity apps, it's automation for systems, managing existing Microsoft infrastructure, database programs, all of the corporate work desktops that have applications that need to be written for them, all those dark matter developers. This is Microsoft putting the pieces in place so that Windows 10 and the Windows platform really can be the ubiquitous development platform of everything that you're not using Ubuntu and macOS for. And maybe even a few things you're using Ubuntu for. And that to do that, you got to have PowerShell open source. So that way when you stray away from your Windows box for a bit, maybe you're doing a project on the Mac, you can still have all of the tools that you're used to. You can invest in this. That's the whole thing now. Is if you want something that developers are truly going to utilize, you got to open source it. You got to put it up on GitHub. You got to basically lay out your whole roadmap so that way they can trust it. I mean, look, Apple even did that with Swift. This is the Swift maneuver taken to the next level. Microsoft saw what Apple's doing with Swift, and this is all to the next level here. PowerShell has to be open source. It has to be available for Linux. It has to be available for macOS for them to reach their goal here of making Windows 10 the ubiquitous developer platform.
Okay, sure. But in the specific case of PowerShell, I actually think .NET Core is very good. Mm-hmm. Every time I've played with it, I've been thinking a lot. C# is a language that, while it's not, it doesn't hit that sort of orgasmic level of joy that Objective-C gives me.
Of course.
But it also doesn't make me want to cry in a basement like Swift. So it's right there, right? It's just right in the middle. So I could see myself, and I have been writing a lot of C#. At no point in this process did I say, you know what would complete this great Satya Nadella Sunday? PowerShell. Right. I happily open Bash every time. Even on Windows, right?
I think it was more obvious to us on this show when they open sourced .NET. This is a continuation of that same strategy, I think. And when they open sourced .NET, I think there's more people using .NET now than there were when they open sourced. It has been good for .NET to be it's been beneficial for the adoption of the language.
No, I think that's absolutely true, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, the biggest thing holding the .NET platform back was that it's Windows, right? And that you have to, or you desperately cling to Mono. But I don't think anybody.
Well,
really
it depends on the lens you're using. It's one of the greatest things about it, and it was one of the most limiting things about it. And now that's been removed, so it's still great on Windows, but those limitations in the past have been removed now.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing: is it's still great on Windows. It's at the benefit of the developers who have invested all of their time and energy into the Windows platform that these tools are going open source and going cross-platform, because a skill set that they use on their primary platform is available in other places now. And they don't have to go learn Bash. They don't have to go... I mean, this is my theory. As a non-PowerShell user, I've literally played with it on a couple of occasions and went, okay, I kind of see what they're going here. going back to Bash now. And that's been the extent of it. So I admit I could be missing something here, but to me it feels like it's this really clever strategy where you put a couple of pieces in line, you line a few things up, and then you just continue down that path and iterate on it, which is what they're doing with .NET. I think it's going to be the same thing they do with PowerShell. It's the same thing they're doing with the subsystem for Linux. It's becoming an overwhelming momentum, because when it was just one project, when it was just .NET, or when it was just Visual Studio Code, or when it was just the subsystem for Linux, it's an interesting thing to observe. But in combination now, it is a large amount of momentum coming from Microsoft in this open source very much going after developers.
No, I agree with that, right? So I guess where I'm getting confused in your argument is the point to like convert me from primarily using a Mac and my Galago at home to use Windows 10, or is the point to like stop me from using Heroku and get me to use Azure, or both? I mean, I guess it could be both, right?
Yeah, I've always found with Microsoft, there's usually, if you really look at it and distill it down, there's 3 to 5 core motivations that they line up, and once three, it's like these different business groups inside. Once enough of them line up that this project aligns with their interest, it clicks into place. And so it's always hard to just say it's just one thing, because I don't think it ever is with Microsoft. I think there's a lot of people that come to the table, and when enough of them click on something, then they move forward. So it is in part a move against Heroku and to lock in Azure. It is a move in a part to stop the bleeding to macOS and Ubuntu. But it is also a move in a part to just lock in their existing dark matter developer base and give them even better tools. So that way you're sitting on the Windows platform going, I can see marked improvement here. And in a lot of ways, that's all it really takes. If the tool set that you use, if you can see it's markedly getting better, every year or so, some interesting developments happen, and now you see Microsoft taking some bold moves. It sort of is reassurance to just keep on keeping.
I guess I do buy that. So it's everything, and which makes sense because they're a gigantic company with lots of motivations.
Right.
But I will say, like, some things, like this happened literally today, Chris. I'm on my Mac. The Microsoft Bot Framework is going under a major, let's call it, upgrade. That the end of March, the version I've been using will no longer be available. So I'm on a pretty tight get her done kind of cycle here.
Oh boy!
And because of various complications, and it's basically like something of a rewrite, which I'm not super thrilled about, but because of just like the way we are currently like structured, we have more C# talent than like deep JavaScript. So it might make sense to do these additional components and this kind of branch off version in C#. So I'm like, okay, well, we already have Visual Studio for Mac. Everybody's using basically a Mac here. Let's do that. And you can't install the project template in Visual Studio for Mac. And there is a dude on GitHub who has some like hacky way around it, but it's one of those things that
it's already getting annoying.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, or you could just run VMware or like one of the spare Windows machines and do it that way, which is like the totally pragmatic thing to do. Like I could whip out my HP or like VMware,
or hell, even Boot Camp, but if you had to.
Yeah, I just don't have enough hard drive space on my Mac. That's a whole other thing.
Well, just pop a new. Oh, that's right.
No, well, CC. But it seems like, okay, they're embracing the Mac, they're embracing Linux, they're embracing Bash. C# is becoming a pretty dominant language for us here, which is interesting. And I would actually say good. But then you hit these weird hurdles where it's like, except for, it's almost like the most favorite son problem, right? Where we love the Mac users, we love the Linux guys, but Windows is our first baby, right? And they get it first.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of Apple does the same thing, right?
Well, yeah. I'm waiting for the hammer to drop, right, with Swift. And I would almost argue that Apple's a little more aggressive because when they deprecate versions of Swift, they deprecate it really hard. I don't know. I think we're getting a little lost here, but it's interesting to see them do all these different things. I think they're on the right track. I'm just wondering at what point, particularly Visual Studio for Mac, at what point will that be able to, get to parity where it doesn't have to have that for Mac moniker, right?
Well, this is an interesting question, isn't it? Because did you see that they just recently announced that they're rebasing Microsoft Office for the Mac and Microsoft Office for Windows off the same code base, and they're going to enable collaborative editing across the two?
Yeah, I did, which is interesting. It's good. It's good to see. I mean, that should have probably happened a long time ago.
Yeah. Right. But that could be the beginning there, where if they're doing it with Office, the thinking there could be because the thing about Office is it's sort of like its own not company, but its own fiefdom. Yes, yeah, that's a good. Yes, it's its own fiefdom inside Microsoft, and as we've covered in the good old Windows RT days, they can make or break some products within Microsoft simply by their willingness to comply. And the sign is, I think the message here is, we're starting at the top. We're going after one of our bread and butters, and we're going multi-platform here. That's going to be interesting to watch, and you may see that trickle down because it's not like they're starting small. They're starting with one of their biggest things, one of their most political things, and that may lead to massive retooling down the road for a lot of other tools that we talk about on this show. It could be, and it seems like where they'd have to go, right? I mean, eventually they have to break away. Don't they eventually have to break away from this Win32 NT base eventually? Or can they just keep revving this thing for another 30 years? I honestly don't know.
So I don't know the answer to that, right? And that's a pretty, I mean, if you want to parallel them to, let's not say to Apple, but let's say, I mean, really any of the big platforms, I would even say Canonical, right? I would even say Ubuntu. And actually, maybe it's worse. In a lot of ways, like Apple and Microsoft have a lot of legacy behind them. And, even like when I'm working on my HP, I can tell which programs in Windows have not been updated in quite some time.
Yep.
I mean, to the point of like if I have a high DPI monitor and it's barely legible, right?
Yep.
Where is that really bad? I don't know. I would certainly prefer that things worked in a more elegant, succinct way, and that I didn't have to think about
the advantage though is that the tools often might not be as pretty or as modern, but they're fully baked in a way that Linux users don't often get, and definitely I think the same on the Mac. You don't get this level of this just does everything really well. I don't know how to describe it exactly because do you follow what I'm like not having to be able to go 15 years and not have to throw out the code base can be a really, really good thing. It can be a really bad thing, but it can also be a sort of an amazing luxury that almost no other platform developers have.
But most major companies, even like mid-sized companies, have Windows applications that they had done a long time ago and are still running, right? I mean, how many times have I come across someone to mention on the air that's like running some huge enterprise function on Access?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing is I would prefer not to work in Windows at all, but the reality of the situation is most companies I engage with have something in Windows, and I at some point need at least a Windows VM.
Absolutely.
To be able to see what's going on. So it's not like, I mean, I guess that's how you define success. Ubiquity is success, right?
So you take that fact, this sort of undeniable market penetration, where even all Linux shops usually have a Windows box or a Windows VM somewhere, and you combine it with this unbelievable momentum towards developer focus and open source. The Windows source code itself is using GitHub these days. They overlay a file system on top of it, but they actually have, it's the largest project on GitHub is Windows. They have SQL Server for Linux now. They have all of these things we talk about constantly. There's there's a real force to be reckoned with. They're going to be a continued powerhouse in the developer community for as long as I can see. They've really locked themselves in now as one of the most 5 powerful companies.
Well, and I would give them a little bit of credit here. They've done it by getting a lot better, right? Azure's really, really good. Now, there was that performance benchmark done where AWS Lambdas apparently relatively faster in most cases. But the ease of getting started is particularly, I'm thinking more of new developers who are like in college right now. If somebody hands you, when you're 19 years old, $300 of Azure credits, well, you can make that go a long way. And I'm wondering if we're not, can I make a crazy prediction?
Yeah.
Egon, get ready to write this down. Will 2020, if we're still doing the show, which I'm sure we will be from Redmond, Washington.
Live from the Microsoft campus.
Will Azure overtake AWS, and will we see a Microsoft resurgence for all the hot, new startups?
That seems like a long shot, I got to be honest. The only way that could even be possible is if they just saw a massive adoption of on-premises customers, right? Because that's where they're just...
Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I think it could be... I think it could be a little more than just on-prem, but we'll see.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, if you think about it, they get that. You would think they would have a better insight into that customer base than Amazon would. I mean, Amazon's got so much experience in the business now. It just seems like that's no longer a thing. But if both were to start at square one today, Microsoft seems like they would have a better understanding of how the enterprise works and how servers and what server customers expect than Amazon, a company that was at the time selling books. So you wouldn't have pegged it this way. So it's hard to predict. It's hard to bet against old Jeff and Amazon because, boy, if he isn't wily and pulling it ahead.
Old Jeff's not shy about cutting prices down to the damn bone too. So
that's true. Yeah, and Azure now built into your Amazon Prime subscription. Jeez, maybe one day, if they're really trying to get developers on board. All right, we still have more to get to, including owning up to Egon and our predictions, as well as a couple other things that I hope we have a little time to get to. So let's take a moment right now and thank DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Mike and I have been using DigitalOcean. How many years, Mike? I mean, 4 years? Yeah, I think when I log into my dashboard, I think it says 4 years now, which seems crazy to me that I've had servers on DigitalOcean for 4 years. Wow. I can comfortably say I have had a great experience in those 4 years. Go over to DigitalOcean, create your account, and then use a promo code CODERDIGITAL. That'll give you a $10 credit, and it supports the show. It's a cloud computing platform that's built with simplicity, so you can get started super fast. It makes managing infrastructure very easy. If you're a business with 1 to 10 systems, or you need thousands, DigitalOcean will work for you. It gets out of the way and gets you started. You can deploy applications with zero effort, or you can build a system from just the base up. Predictable pricing, it's scalable, it's reliable, definitely reliable. 99.99% uptime with SLA for all services. They have alert and monitoring services built in as well. Network level firewalling, so you can do firewalling in the dashboard, and it applies those rules at the network level so the traffic never even gets to your box. They have private networking for great backend infrastructures and backup. Check that out. Tons of OSs to choose from. You can do clustered deployments. You can use some of their scalable storage solutions like block storage that make it easy to add more disk when you need it. Private networking is my favorite feature. I'm going to give it another mention. And of course, I guess I shouldn't say favorite feature. Private networking is my favorite little hack of DigitalOcean. If you dig into it, you'll find out that it doesn't count against your transfer. It's a great way to put like a front-end Nginx box and then put some systems on the back end, or it's a great way to throw a Bacula box on your back end and back up your systems. I just love it. They also have baked-in backups to the DigitalOcean dashboard, which I use on a couple of our systems because it's just such a nice peace of mind. DigitalOcean.com. Go over there, create your account, and use our promo code CODERDIGITAL and check out their new pricing. Unbelievable now. What you used to get, so for $5 a month, you used to get 512 megs of RAM. Now you get a gig. For $10 a month, you get 2 gigs of RAM. For my favorite system, 3 cents an hour, you now get 4 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, and 80 gigabytes of storage for 3 cents an hour. DigitalOcean.com. Everything's SSD based with data centers all over the world. DigitalOcean.com. Use our promo code CODERDIGITAL over at DigitalOcean.com. DockRadio.com, and thank you to them for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Now, we have some predictions to own up to, and the only way to do this right, of course, is we have to pay homage to the ultimate 4D chess player, the one who has vision, who can see forward years into the future, and then pull the strings of society. Yes, we draw our predicting strength from the one, the only, Vladimir Putin. Yeah?
Trotsvoy! I'm sorry.
Vladimir Putin, y'all!
Wow. That might be Vladimir Lenin.
All right, so this is the appropriate music, of course, whenever we're playing 4D chess. Yeah. That's good, right? It's good. That's good. This is how we are able to look into the future. So
I just want to sidetrack here. If I get in that damn little room again because of you at the airport, I swear to God.
This is why I drive everywhere. This is why now you know. We got to start out with our favorite go-to is we continue to be nailing it with the Docker predictions, nailing it, reviewing the tapes. Everything we say about Docker is always 100% correct.
Yeah, basically.
Basically is. That's actually it. It's been good. It's been a good ride. It has been the Docker thing's been a good ride for this show. Now, we have a long history of, well, at least one of us does, of also not always nailing it. And that would be Mike's call on pro-level tablets, WinRT, iPad Pro. The dream just hasn't panned out on that one.
No, as much as the good Captain Lorca would have me think that he's going to do very cool stuff from his tablet, 'tis not the case.
Yeah, maybe you have to have it integrated into your chair for it to be a success.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's the chair factor.
So, I'm glad the one that you called out, the trend that you called out, that we've covered sort of just unknowingly. It's just been something that's been weaving in and out, is remote working. And, of course, we really got into it when Marissa Mayer, which worked out famously, recalled all the troops back to Yahoo. But in the meantime, you and I also personally in our businesses went through, no, everybody's got to be local, everybody's got to be in-house, and then went back to, remote work's pretty good. I can do some mix of local and remote. Where do we stand, though? Like, did we blow this overall? Do you feel like you blew it a little bit trying the no remote thing completely, going hard on that?
I feel like it was solving the wrong problem.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, so maybe it would help, because I'm not entirely sure where you are now. Because I actually just posted on Medium for the Matt Boderick Medium account what our current model for remote work is, and it's a hybrid model, where we have a core team on site in Florida, and then we have remote people in various parts of the United States. The core team doesn't come in every day, and it's kind of a 3-2, 3 in, 2 out, 2 in, 3 out, depending on need, right? Like in December, everything sucks in December, so there's no point. But in the heavy times, certainly we could all come in. I think this has worked. It is working. The kinks are still being worked out of it a little bit. I still do think that there's value in a centralized HQ, particularly for functions like business development, right, and project management. But I don't think it's worth paying the increased rent and increased basically pain in the ass on hiring people to go 100%.
This is 100% where I'm at right now. You are nailing we have some in, some out, sort of a hybrid model, and our rent, it's not rent, it's the mortgage, is going up $700 and change a month. And now it's like, do I even need this? Should I just bail on a physical location? $700 a month is almost like the cost of another place.
Yeah, that's significant, yeah.
So yeah, the remote work thing, I think I'm back on board with more than in the past. It's also just sort of easier because some of the people that are like the Beard now is working remote, and so he and I have worked in the same building for years. So it's a little bit easier to work remote with somebody when you've worked with them in person for a while too. So I think meeting up is kind of I think if I could like just add $20,000 to the Jupiter Broadcasting budget, I would be for team meetups to get people together more, the whole team together more. I think that would really sort of be good for everybody. You know, if you and Wes could hang out together sometime, and in physical space, not just while talking during a show.
Right. No, and that I mean that's something that we still have someone in New Jersey. I'm trying to fly him down at some point, hopefully in February, because there is something there.
People go more in. People get more motivated. They put more of themselves. They're more of skin on the game once they've met the people and they've formed relationships.
Yeah.
And it's palatable every time we get a lot of people here for Linux Fest Northwest. Like we get like a boost out of it. I feel the same way.
Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, having said that, I now work in the office 5 days a week because I have a 20-month-old at home, and he has destroyed a couple DOS keyboards already. So yeah, that's a problem, of course. Like not everybody, and I think this is kind of the problem I was solving incorrectly when I went all Marissa Mayer on it hard. Some people are not suited to work from home. And it's not like a negative thing against them. It's just it requires a certain like mindset. And it does require like some sort of environment that's conducive to that, right? Like if you have little kids running around the house, I mean, I do. I can't imagine working from home 5 days a week anymore. I tried it again, and it was just, you know what? Because a 20-month-old doesn't understand.
Yeah, right? even a 3 or 4 year old doesn't.
Right.
Or a 5 or 6 year old. And sometimes the kids come to visit the studio for a few hours, and they just want to play, and they're excited to be here. They're excited to see us, so they don't, and then you have that guilt when well, Dad, won't you play with me? Come on, Daddy, I want to play. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many more years? There's only a couple more years. They're even, in the grand scheme, there's only a few years of their life they're even going to ask me to do that. So then I feel like
they get the car keys. Peace out, Dad.
Yeah. And then it's like, then they're going to get to a certain age where they're too busy to talk to me. They don't have anything to do with me. So I can't say no to that. It just, it's too tempting.
Yeah, same boat. It's too tempting, and then you're working at 2 a.m. to get a build out, in my case, or you're probably editing a show.
Yep.
So I don't know. Did we blow it? Did we get it? I'm going to say that we get a pass on this one because everybody so far has blown it.
Yeah, it really is one of the most challenging things.
Right.
Yep. All right, very good. So I'm going to say it wasn't a huge way out there prediction for me to make. It's not like I'm some wizard, but I was pretty bullish at the beginning of last year. I went back and listened to the episode that I forgot the number, but we published it like January 7th or something of 2017. It was our first New Year's episode, and we talked about it last week. And in there, I was pretty bullish on the Lady Tubes and then getting the Lady Tubes integrated into TVs. Not that I think it's a great idea. I want to make sure that's clear. That I think the industry thinks it's a great idea. And I was pretty clear that it was going to be a development opportunity to me for certain people to create skills, and Google Assistant would grow. And I think that's all pretty much bared out in the last year. Yeah. And I've even ended up getting more Lady Tubes.
I did not know this until last week. I bought a TV about a month ago. It has the Google Assistant in there.
Yeah. My NVIDIA Shield TVs have it built in.
And it works actually fairly well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all pretty decent, really. It's basic in some regards. There's times that I find it to be choresome to like interact with it.
Right.
But boy, if this is just the beginning of this product category, is it going to be really interesting? My dream would be, imagine a scenario where microservices for the win. My Lady Tube is here in the studio, and say you and I have to reschedule a show. Something comes up, and I just say, hey, Lady Tube, reschedule Coda Radio with Mike. It has access to your, like you shared it with me. It has access to your calendar. It finds an open slot. It gets your Lady Tube to prompt you and say, hey, Mike, would 3 p.m. on Thursday be a good time for you to record Coda Radio this week? You just say yes to the tube, and it's all taken care of. It's automatically put together. You could even say, hey, Lady Tube, add a reminder to that meeting that I needed to go back and review our predictions. And all of these, that's where I think this could go. And it doesn't feel like that's more than just a few years off, really, to get there. And then these things are genuinely useful, even if you don't have any smart devices to control.
Right. I've been working on and I tweeted this, so I hope you don't care that I say it. I've been working on a simple Alexa, can I say that? Alexa skill for the show. And I did not know they had an app review for that. Good to know.
Oh, interesting. I guess that makes sense.
They do some sort of review. And then I was, I was digging into the documentation, and the recently released, I think it's like Amazon or She Who Shall Not Be Named at Work, that looks like if they actually clean that up a little bit and dig into that Alexa is going to be more and more powerful going forward.
You just say Echo. You don't have to say the A word. Then it doesn't trigger.
I thought the other one triggered it. God damn. Okay. Sorry.
That's it. You know, people. I watched an SNL, or no, I was watching something on TV last night. It's just triggering it like crazy. So it's something that we're gonna have to come to some sort of.
This Week in Google triggers my home all the time.
Yeah. So I think the skills angle is still yet to really bear out fruit for developers, but there are things that I think people are using these tubes for that are pretty useful. And it's mostly consuming like news and audio podcasts and getting other kind of updates. There's a pretty cool function where you can stack a briefing and get a pretty nicely tailored news feed, and it's so what I do is while I'm getting ready in the morning, I say, "Hey Echo, what's new?" And it says, "Here's your flash briefing." First thing it does is it runs through the weather, and then I get news from the New York Times, from Fox News, from NPR, from my local CBS affiliate. Then it gives me Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency statuses, and I sometimes add other things like tech headlines in there depending on the week. And it's just, if I bought it and it only did that for $30, it would be worth it. Mm-hmm. And so everybody will find a couple of little things that these things do over time, and they begin to do more. I think it is gonna. I think 2018 it'll be even a larger market. And boy, has Apple blown it.
Yeah, Siri is just looking worse every day compared to Echo and Google. I mean, just having the Google Assistant in my TV, I'm a big soccer fan. But one problem with watching soccer in the U.S. is finding a game is a huge pain in the ass because they tend to be aired at weird times and on different channels on cable. But somehow my TV knows about that and can tell me what networks it thinks the game is on. Yeah, which is actually super helpful.
I find it's useful to use it to search across multiple streaming services or things like that. That's kind of a handy thing. There are some, surprisingly, and I'm a minority in this, there are some things that Siri does better for me than any of these other services do. Specifically, I can't, if I were to say, "Hey Echo, what's the wind speed in Mount Vernon, Washington?" it would give me the weather and it would never tell me the wind speed. It would just give me the forecast. But I can specifically ask Google Assistant or Siri, what is the wind speed in Mount Vernon? And then what's interesting is the different assistants, they structure their responses differently. And some of them are more efficiently structured. They give you the core information. So if I say, "Hey Siri, what's the wind speed in Mount Vernon, Washington?" it will start with, the wind speed in Mount Vernon, Washington is currently 13 miles per hour. Whereas if you ask the Google Assistant, it'll say, "It is currently sunny," and then it just displays on the screen what the wind speed is. And then the Echo doesn't even answer the question at all. I mentioned that very annoying specific scenario simply to demonstrate that neither of them is perfect, so there is still room for competition. But it seems like if you combine how far ahead the Google Assistant is and the penetration that Google's actually successfully seen with hardware partners. How many times have we seen Google announce, we're going to be XYZ, Android TV XYZ will be integrated into television sets in 2015, and then it never happens.
And it didn't happen.
But this is actually happening. And then you look at the Echo market, the skills thing is really happening. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of them now. There is eventually going to become a path to monetization. It seems inevitable if they want these things to get better, and they're working on them with some of them. And Apple hasn't even shipped yet. And Mycroft hasn't shipped anything really yet either.
Oh, I was waiting for someone to say the M word.
Yeah, I think there's still, I've gotten hints that there's some stuff coming from them soon, so I don't count them out completely.
Yeah, so have I.
I still have high hopes, but my take on it is that at this point, not even Apple could crack the market, let alone an open source startup like Mycroft.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the Google devices... First of all, Google's integrating with everything. I mean, if you bothered to read CSS coverage, which I have to be honest, CSS is CES, whatever. No, I prefer CSS actually. Give me a blink tag and we'll be good to go. Google was like, you have a piece of hardware, toaster? Let me integrate with that. Coffee maker, we're in there too, right? Like Google's just going for it.
Yeah, so same though with Echo. It even got integrated into toilets this year. I mean, light switches now have the Echo's some functionality built in with a little blue ring on them. They're going all in with the integration.
Yeah, I mean, the monetization story right now, it's Uncle Jeff is kind enough to write you a check based on some metric that is not clear. I would like to see something like an open marketplace. It doesn't look likely, but I think you're right that long term, the ambient computing, which is what this really all is, right, is going to be really important. And also as automation continues to grow, the combination of automation and ambient computing, I think it's going to be another 5 to 10 year story.
Yeah, so I think so. And I hope, and it's not looking good, that we don't just get mobile 2.0 in terms of ecosystem lock-in and app stores, which we seem to be trending to.
I think we are.
But having played now with some skills, writing a skill, is it possible for you to do you see a world where you have created the back-end infrastructure for a Coder Radio skill and it's only writing like a little more of a front end for it to work on the Google Assistant? Or do you see it would be a completely separate from the ground up project to now do this on the Google Assistant? Having messed around with the skill for the Echo.
So the way I'm doing it is I'm using the Echo, what's called the other thing, SDK, and AWS Lambda. So I'm actually going down the path that Amazon recommends because I just want to like see what that experience is like.
That's what I would do too. Yeah.
In reality,
so that is pretty locked in then to the
right. Well, of course they recommend you do it the locked-in way, right? In reality, one could use a middleware framework such as like the MS Bot framework or API.ai or any of the other, like there's about 5 good ones now, and yeah, then you can hit multiple platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a big asterisk there, right? It's like cross-platform isn't mobile, or isn't mobile right when it came out. It's like you can totally hit the platforms, but like I have a problem with like hero cards don't render right in Slack for me for some reason, and it looks like I need to add some like tweaks that are Slack specific to hero cards, right? So we're at the phase in the maturity of these frameworks where yes, you can use them to try to hit multiple endpoints for your bots or your skills, but don't be surprised if on that last mile, so to speak, you're doing a bit of individual work.
That would be my kind of a current expectation too. All right. Yeah. So were we discussing the potential that developers may have to go through some sort of licensing process for certain types of...
So we were. So I was listening to the last few year-end and year-beginning shows, and we were pretty concerned after healthcare.gov got screwed up.
And there's a lot of heat
around that.
On the developers in particular around that. Yeah.
On the developers, right, and about that this is unlicensed, if they were building a bridge. I mean, it was one of those things that was on Fox News, right? Like, you need that has thankfully died down, but I think all it's going to take is one more major public project, and I think we're going to hear it again, right? Where software developers, people will be pushing for them to be licensed. And I've actually heard it a few times on a number of news radio programs and TV in relation to bots, as in like AI bots, like software bots, but also robots, right? That these should be licensed and the people who work on them should be licensed. So it is coming back again, fear of automation, right?
Licensing for developers, as long as it doesn't come to podcasters.
Wait till you're paying an FCC license. I can't wait.
Oh man. The general trend of the commoditization of developer jobs seems to continue, doesn't it?
It does, in many, many forms. And I think we basically hit this one out of the park, right? The abuse of the H-1B visas has not stopped at all. Remember, after we made that prediction, Disney, a year later, did that massive layoff where they basically laid off their California and Florida-based developers, or in large numbers they did, and hired
That's right.
Offshore developers, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is, and I would also argue that the PWAs and a lot of the HTML5 frameworks are another version of this kind of thing, where basically the market is settling on the cheapest possible and acceptable solutions for things, which is another form of commoditization if you think about it.
Well, I wonder if there is a general trend to pull from all of this, like something to sort of, like when you look at it with the 50,000-foot view, several years being reviewed here, what do you draw from this?
Well, before I give you that, I slipped another one in the doc during the show.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The Mac Exodus and Year of the Dev Linux Desktop, Chris.
Did we talk about that at some point? That doesn't sound like us. That doesn't sound like something we'd ever talk about.
Not like us at all. We never talked about that. And we don't agree on this yet, right? You're still pretty gung-ho on 1804.
I think it has a pretty good shot of being the largest growth area for developer workstations.
Okay.
You think not? You think the ship has sailed?
Yeah, I think the opportunity has more or less been squandered. Unless Apple really, I mean, all signs point that they're going to make concessions towards. But
then look at the iMac Pro and the fact that it's still a compromise. I know you've been looking at it. I mean, you haven't pulled the trigger, right?
No, I have not pulled the trigger.
And why is that? It's not a clear win, right? It's not an easy win. It's a kind of win.
It's a win-ish, right? It's not a clear win. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I don't... It's an expensive solution that probably doesn't need to happen for me just yet.
See, you are not the minority. I think this is a super common position, and I think there's a lot of people who aren't willing to pull the trigger on that cost. And I'm not saying it's unfairly priced either. I'm just saying I think that's the reality. And then there's the compromises of an all-in-one for what should be a 5 to even 10-year developer workstation if possible, depending on what your workload is. I guess I point this out not to say that the Linux is going to explode because Windows 10 is getting more competitive, but I think there's still room for a particular market that can tolerate a certain rough edgeness, if you will, that I think it's going to be a good year. I don't think it's going to be the year, but I think it's going to be a pretty good year. Unless something's wrong with 1804.
Yeah, I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think it's going to be a good year, but I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 2 or 3 years, Windows 10 makes up some of the losses. Because a lot of the developer losses were Mac gained from Windows, right? And when the whole hipster Mac thing started. And now I do think you're right to a point. Some like web developers, it really does make more sense for them probably to be on Linux just for the cost savings. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Windows kind of get more prominence.
Maybe. I think there's a lot of people that are just done with Windows. You might be one of them. You can see that they're doing well and you respect it, but at the same time, it's like I just can't really anymore.
Oh yeah, no, I would much rather
So I think that to that kind of market, I think that matters. I had a sensation the other day. I sat down at one of our computers and I realized that my mood was getting worse when I was using it. Because just using the computer sort of pisses me off. I don't know. I wasn't angry. I was just sort of stressed. I was agitated. I just don't like using Windows 7, and it was a Windows 7 machine. It's just, I don't know. It's just not for me. It's a fine system. In fact, I'm amazed the damn thing's running as well as it is. But yeah, if I had just a few pennies to rub together and could only spend them once, I wouldn't want to spend it on a platform that drives me crazy to use. I'd want to spend it on the one that I enjoy using. But you're right. I think it's going to just be slow incremental change here. Unless either one, like Canonical, if they blow 1804, or if the Mac Pro is a joke. I'll tell you what, High Sierra is a joke. I have a machine that I upgraded. It's a 2012 MacBook Pro. I upgraded it a bit ago, and now, after the latest update, things get worse every time they do an update. Now my cursor disappears after a while. And then I go...
fantastic.
Yeah, and then I right click, but then it goes away again. And when you Google search this, you get Apple support forum threads that go back to 2012 of people talking about this, but it appears to also be just unique to High Sierra at the same time, like it's a new one. I can't even. It's so frustrating. Again, it's just I really just think all computers are frustrating. That's why I was hoping the tablet thing would actually be a good way for me to get some work done. Because
it's never going to happen.
I expect less.
We just can't have nice things. So the 10,000 foot, what can we draw from this?
What do you think?
I think if there's a lesson, because we tend to have people who always, like younger folks want to learn something, it's you especially looking back on some of the old episodes, I actually did listen to them. You really can't assume the current state is going to be the state in the future, right? So like there is a trend of, like the best rant I think we've ever done on the show was my Swift rant, because it was classic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's good.
But that was really me being upset that like I had built this like little Objective-C fort, and now I had to compete on a level playing field with everybody else, and I didn't like it. Right. I think some of the reason I'm probably a little more optimistic as far as Microsoft is concerned is because I'm still in a state of like, I've been jumping around a lot. And the reason for that is for the last year or two, I think we've very much been in a transitional period. Mobile is super mature. Web is super mature. PWAs are kind of a new thing, but they're really not, right? They're just not that new. It's responsive design plus, but now with responsive functionality, basically. So, AR has kind of been disappointing.
Yep.
VR is not really happening unless you're in gaming. And even then, I don't think it's really happening. So, I'm looking at bots, I'm looking at AI, and I'm thinking, this is a new, kind of a new opportunity, right? You have to think back, and if you're, younger and listen to the show and you weren't there, no one thought the iPhone was going to be a big deal for developers when it came out.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Web apps. So, have at it, kids.
And I remember, like, when I picked up a MacBook and started doing iOS development, I had a friend who was like, why don't you just do, like, Windows? You could get a job. It'd be great, I think sometimes, I guess the lesson would be over the last couple of years, you have to be willing to take a risk. And the industry is always consuming itself, right? It's always like, mobile was big, now mobile's commoditized. So you can do mobile, you can still do mobile, but you really should be looking for the next big thing, which is LadyTubes, according to Chris.
Well, I don't know about that. It's a thing. It is definitely a thing. It seems like you're right. Bots, LadyTubes, those are the things that people might have a shot at making money at if they're starting today. I don't know though. Because they are so reminiscent of their mobile cousins in the way that, they even have app review. They have app stores. It feels like there's less of a wild, wild west kind of opportunity that there often tends to be. And so I think the big area where people are really hyped about future money, like where they think that's going to be a big source of future innovation that we don't talk a lot about, is things that are quote-unquote blockchain-based or quote-unquote cryptos. You see a lot of talk around like Telegram is doing an ICO, which is a initial coin offering. Telegram's doing an ICO to raise funds for their own unique cryptocurrency, which will be used internally in the Telegram app. And as a way, that'll be the way to pay for bot developers and pay for bot functions is using the Telegram crypto. And then the bot developers cash out the Telegram crypto to their local currency. This is the direction things are going with those kinds of things. So I'm not saying it's going to be a great future. It sounds really complicated.
Yeah, blockchain as a technology, I think it's undeniable that it's a big deal, but for use in currency, that just I don't see it. I could just be wrong. I did think WinRT was going to work. So.
Well, I guess my point is though is if you set that area aside, what's the area that people are talking a lot about that's going to generate revenue? I think the truth is it's going to be all of the above. It's going to be your traditional sources, your day-to-day jobs, your dark matter developers, your sort of unique opportunities. Maybe some company comes along and they need an app all of a sudden. Those things will still exist, but your core sort of fiefdom, I guess, let's use that term again. Where you had is you're right. It's gone. It's dissolved. They blew it up. They destroyed it. They made it easier than ever to do your job. The world has been flattened for this exact kind of industry. It's like perfect for the flattening. It was begging for it, and they've taken advantage of it. And now people are so crazy to make money that they're creating currencies, and they're just doing all of this nuts stuff to try to figure out a way for people to make money online. It's 2018's already kind of a nutty year, and it's just begun. If you think about it, where we're going right now is completely insane. People creating skills for LadyTubes to lock you into entire ecosystems, people that are creating fake currencies out of nowhere and generating millions. We are going into some crazy-ass times.
Well, but so that's exactly my point. But you, as always, put it more eloquently in that I think we're going into like another Cambrian explosion, right, in terms of technology, where there's going to be a lot of stuff that people try that's going to be,
right,
in
or
hindsight,
gets hyped.
It could be really stupid, right? In hindsight, But like, listen, when we first talked about Docker, we had people write into the show, right? We had their, at the time, CTO on, and we're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, now it's the standard for containerization, which wasn't a thing until Docker.
Right, and the other thing we got too was, well, there's already things that do that. There's no reason why this.
Well, I would just use Puppet, right? Like, we got a whole list of like weird. Why have my bash scripts, right? Like, yeah. The whole point of the next thing is that you don't know, right? No one's going to be able to wake up and say, "Yeah, man, this VR headset is going to work." How many people bet a fortune developing for Oculus? And really didn't do okay.
Or you can be one of the richest companies in the world with one of the largest smartphone market shares, and you can say AR is going to be the next big thing. You can build a phone around it, and it can go nowhere.
Right, except for Pokemon. If you want to catch Pokemon,
which you could do before they got in on AR.
Which you could do before. So I think in a lot of ways, it's actually allowing a lot of different types of developers to do really interesting work. Like you no longer have to be, I would take it a step further and say there, when mobile was dominant, it was just mobile, right? Everybody was trying to get into mobile. Now there are so many opportunities of new technologies that are growing. You just have to pick something. I mean, I'm still holding out hope for the tablets. I think we will eventually get high data density, high productivity.
You think
touch
we'll
software.
Just come back around to it at some point?
I think the day Apple flips is the day it happens.
What do you mean flips?
So right now, Apple's position is we don't do productivity software on touch, really, right? And I'm meaning in terms of OS 10 or Mac OS, whatever. The day that happens, the day we see a touch MacBook, not because like the industry needs Apple to lead them, but the tech press, right? The people who, inform a lot of these decisions do tend to follow Apple for like design guides.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Once they say, yeah, you can do a hybrid touch thing, then it's going to open the floodgates.
Right. Once there's a MacBook, and it might not look like I have an HP Spectre on my desk here that just folds backwards. It might not look like that. It might be something that we can imagine, but. If you can appear through the mycelial spore network anywhere,
that's true.
That's great.
That's true. And apparently, once it's in the network, it's always in the network. So you never really know where you're going to come out of the network, though. So you have to ride it.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't do it too many times in a row.
In the meantime, though, you could always go over to Twitter. And Mike, where would they follow you in those places?
At Dumanuco.
Well, it's easy. It's straightforward. It's nice. You can follow me at Chris LES. Oh, damn it. Follow the show at Coder Radio Show on Twitter. I was thinking you and I, in some point in the future, ought to do like a live Q&A on that channel, on that, Twitter account after the show. Like we just do one. Cool. Just to, to get people over there and check out the new Twitter handle. So I'm at Chris LES at Coder Radio Show. We'd love to have you join us live. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar for that live time. We also have a Coder Radio chat room that goes 7 days a week. It's at discord.me/JupiterColony, and then find Coder Radio in there, which is where we hang out during the live show. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'd be honored. We'd be honored if you'd join us next week. Downloads, live streams, however you want to do it. We'd be honored. We'd be honored. You can find the RSS feeds over at the website. Thank you for coming here this week. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you right back here next Monday.
The hell out of here.
Okay, dokies. The Coder Radio is done. Right,
it is done.
Now we got to title this monster.
My back is killing me. I need a better chair.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you get a nice plush one. JB
I have to order a red leather one, apparently.
Yeah, that'd be good. Velvet with you can then get a velvet smoking jacket.
Smoking jacket. Yeah.
The joy of PowerShell. You get what you pay for. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let's go see what Discord had to offer. There wasn't a lot of action. Not a lot of action. You know, it's just what it is these days. It's just what it is. The live stream. Well, let's see. Let's do. What do you think? You got any titles coming to you? Anything coming to you?
I want to do a riff. I just had something pop in, but I don't remember. What was there a thing called the Powderpuff Girls or Powerpuff Girls?
Powerpuff Girls, yeah.
Powerpuff Shell? I don't know. It's crappy.
Yes. The PowerShell strategy? What about the PowerShell strategy? Is that too...
That's not bad. How about Power in the Shell?
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. Power in the Shell.
Yeah, I think the live folks don't love us anymore.
No, I think it's a two-part. Where you gotta. If it seems like you gotta be like crazy, like every single day, every single week, same exact time to really build momentum. But then the other thing is I often release these for the patrons, so people can just catch it on the Patreon feed, and usually several hundred watch it afterwards on the Patreon feed now. So we still have to come here and dance, but they don't come here to watch it. Sort of a weird, it's not really kind of working out, actually. I don't know. I gotta give that some consideration.
Yeah, that Patreon thing. Well, I remember we used to get a lot more in the IRC.
Yeah, we do have some folks in the IRC too. Yeah, so
do we?
It's split between IRC and Discord a bit, so that doesn't help either.
Well, we still have the people who listen on record and then email us at 3 a.m, so that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Actually, out of all of the feedback, I tend to like the emails the most when we get them. So I need to try to remember. Yeah. I need to try to remember to solicit them earlier in the show, like when we're doing the feedback.
Yeah.
I haven't grown up. I got to grow up, and I got to become a real broadcaster, and I got to start plugging like a maniac. Pluggy.
I just got a direct message. You've been jerking us around too much. I presume on the time. So
yeah, probably
too many time flips. Yeah.
That really messes with people. It does. You gotta, like we used to have thousands show up for Linux Action Show, and then we moved it to Friday for the summer, and then moved it back to Sunday, and I don't think it ever went above 300 again.
Well, I remember our biggest live audience is when we actually did it at 1 o'clock my time on Monday, because I think people did it on their lunch.
Yeah, even though once we moved last back to our regular like prime time Sunday noon 3 p.m. Eastern, thousands of people that we got 300 was the max. Like it just like once they break the habit, it takes forever to build it back up because like people build it into their routine. That's why we should always just encourage the RSS feed, because if you just subscribe, you get it no matter when we do it.
Yeah, that's the best.
The PowerShell strategy, the PowerShell play? What about that? What about the PowerShell play?
I like the PowerShell play.
I kind of like that too. All right, Mr. Dominic, you have yourself a good week. Lady doing better? Everything going a little better at home? Or
yeah, she can turn her neck again, so that's
optimal. Dude, wow.
Yeah.
I need to get out there and buy you guys a beer one of these days. That would be a lot of fun.
I need to get up by you.
That'd be good too. What's the weather out there, though? Where's it better at right now? What's the What's the average temp?
I'm in shorts and a t-shirt.
Really? Yeah. So I should come to you for that's. What... All right, Mr. Dominic.
I have sandals on. Actually, I don't even have shoes on.
Jeez, that sounds nice. It's been raining. It's gonna rain for the next 3 months straight here. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Take it easy.
Talk to you later.
Have a good day.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much for being here. That is the last live production today, although if you monitor the site or subscribe to TechSnap, there may very well be a brand new fresh TechSnap coming out later today. So there may be something for you to listen to, but there ain't nothing live. Now, tomorrow is the Double Stack. Tomorrow's also a special Linux Unplugged. It's the last Linux Unplugged in the studio for 1 week. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. But it's the stack tomorrow. It's the Linux Unplugged and then the Ask Noah show back to back. So it's a great one to show up for because you just tune in for come in around 1:30 JB time, and usually the pre-show's starting up. And we hang out, play some music. The Mumble Room gets warmed up. We start talking. Wes usually shows up in that time period. And then we go around 2. We start the show up, and we just go right up until about 10-15 minutes before Ask Noah starts. And we break off, and we do our post-show thing, and then we just hand it over to Noah. And it's sort of a great little Linux stack. So I encourage, if you can make it, for you to show up for that. Anyways, I'm going to get you out of here. Thank you much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And we appreciate you. Goodbye, everybody. And remember to send in a suggestion for a sign-off for me. So I got something to say right here.